play right, cause they can't miss. All about the game, that's a cold switch. Serving up the truth, call it ruthless. Tune in and get your fix from Blake and Vish Sports.
Wilson, who made his debut against the Carolina Panthers, the Sam Darnold revenge game. He probably felt good getting revenge. The Jets obviously lost that game, but I thought Zach Wilson did a lot of good things. So what were your thoughts on his debut?
Yeah, so I'd say out of all the rookie quarterbacks, he definitely dealt with there was only 3 that played right, but the O-line play was just atrocious. Mekhi Becton got injured, Elijah Vera Tucker's first game, and the Panthers' edge rushers were just living in the backfield. Brian Burns, Reddick, they were back there the whole time. It really just felt like Zach Wilson was running half the time. And sometimes that got him into some trouble where he would try to juke out 2 dudes and then get sacked or just not be able to get past the first guy. And then other times it would lead to greatness where he had that long touchdown pass to Corey Davis on the run after kind of evading a guy or two. So I thought the O-line was just brutal and a lot worse than the Patriots and the Jaguars games from what I saw. Second off, I thought he started off obviously a little rough. It wasn't really, I don't know. There was a few drops, taking sacks, had a few errant throws. But I thought after that, he really settled in, had a few strikes. Braxton Berrios on 4th and long. And then I thought the throw of the game for him was that throw to Denzel Mims, climbed the pocket. It was 40 yards on a rope. It was an absolute missile. And I thought that was probably his best play of the game. And I just thought just overall, he had a good performance in my mind. I know statistically less than 50%, but with what he was given and what he was working with, I don't really know how much more you could have asked from him. But I thought he was solid overall, and definitely his arm, it just looked a little different, obviously, than preseason because the guys are a lot faster. But the drop-off at first seemed a lot, and then after he settled in, I thought he really did fine, getting the ball where it needed to go and on time.
So I'm with you. I think the stats, especially if you box score scout that game, you would think that he played very poorly, especially early on in that game. And yeah, there were a few errant throws and stuff early, but I thought he actually played really well. First off, there was absolutely nothing for him to work with in that game. The Jets suck. I'm sorry to say it. I thought they would be a little bit better, but the Jets stink. I think Carolina is an above average talented team in the NFL. I think if you rank the teams in the NFL based on talent, the Carolina Panthers would be somewhere 12 to 16, or maybe even 13 to 18, somewhere in that range. Carolina looked like they had 10 times the number of good players than the Jets. Their defense was flying around. They couldn't protect for him. Their offensive line was getting their butt kicked. Brian Burns was winning instantly almost every time. He actually made Brian Burns, by the way, miss in the pocket a couple of times, which is really impressive.
He did, yeah.
Just shows you how athletic he is. He made him just freeze and he shook him out of his shoes. Second, the Panthers corners were being very, very aggressive and getting in these receivers' faces, and these Jets receivers really couldn't do anything about it. They weren't creating space, and I thought there were a few times Zach Wilson maybe escaped, and especially to Elijah Moore down the field, one to Corey Davis, where he escaped, and I thought he threw not a perfect throw, but it was 35 yards out of the down the field, and he is outside of the pocket, and it's the kind of throw that you expect your receiver to make a play on. It's a really good throw, not a perfect throw, but a really good throw, and his receivers just couldn't make plays. So I thought that would have helped his stats. But in general, the Jets, they couldn't run the ball. They didn't really scheme up easy throws for him. A lot of times he would stand in the pocket and the pocket would break down. He would have to get out of the pocket. There wasn't something available right in front of him. And he did an incredible job of just maintaining his poise and managing that situation and being able to make play after play. I know if you look at the box score, it looked like Sam Darnold outplayed him. And Sam Darnold probably did. Sam Darnold played pretty well. And the Panthers obviously are far superior in terms of talent. But I thought, my biggest takeaway from watching his debut is the Jets absolutely made the right decision. He handled all that was around him really well. He gave him a chance to compete in that football game. They had more injuries to more important players. Yeah, Mekhi Becton was another one he got carted off. That's a huge loss for the Jets. They already lost Carl Lawson. They've lost a few people already. But man, I don't know what else to say, but I thought Zach Wilson was I'm not going to say he was great or terrific, but I thought he looked as advertised and looked the part, and he looked like a guy that could carry this Jets roster, which is something I never got that vibe from Sam Darnold.
Mhm.
He didn't seem rattled by the fact that they were so inferior in terms of their talent. He didn't take that as an excuse to make more mistakes. The interception he threw, great play by Shaq Thompson. He tried to look off the linebacker and then throw it back,
Yeah.
and he didn't move Shaq Thompson at all, and Shaq Thompson was sitting right in the throwing lane, and it was a nice reaction because he caught it really with one hand. So, I mean, that he obviously should have probably checked, but I mean, again, otherwise, for a rookie quarterback, I don't know much else to say other than given the situation he was dealing with, he played well.
Okay, I'm glad you brought up the early game, just absolute heaves that were like 30, 40 yards downfield. Because there was probably 2 or 3 of them that I thought realistically could have been caught. Like they definitely, you expect that at least one of those would have been caught. And it would have been a great play by the receiver. Like, don't get me wrong, but like he really gave his receiver more of a chance than they should have had. And I think you mentioned it too. Like he didn't lay over and just like accept defeat. Because if you really think about it, like there was a lot of bad things that could have gone wrong that did not go wrong from that. And just in general with him in the pocket, because I mean both tackles, both edges were just collapsing really, really quickly, and you would not have expected him to get out of some of the situations that he did get out of. And then the non-existent run game doesn't help either when you're in 3rd and long pretty much every time you get to 3rd down. So I thought that was tough too. And then hopefully next week they'll have Crowder back. I know James would really, really help with that too. And I guess my only question was, or is they don't really have anyone that I feel like getting great like yak or yards after catch. Maybe that's Elijah Moore for them, but I feel like Corey Davis and Crowder aren't really that type. Corey Davis looked great though, but I feel like they're missing an element there where like you'd hope they can somehow get like manufactured yards where it's not just Zach Wilson just has to, if you're getting 20 yards, Zach Wilson's throwing a 15-yard in and you're getting like a couple extra yards from it. You'd want more yak.
I think that second point that you made, I'm glad you brought it up because that was the most shocking thing of this game. I watched almost this entire game, start to finish, simultaneous with the Niners game because I was really interested to see both Zach Wilson and Sam Darnold. And one of the shocking things is Mike LaFleur, right? He's a Kyle Shanahan disciple. And when you think of that offense, you think it's going to be quarterback friendly. You think there's going to be a lot of easy completions for the quarterback. I felt like they gave Zach Wilson nothing easy. There was nothing
It wasn't.
available, I felt like, that entire game for him. They had a couple boots that they gave him an easy throw in the flat, but for the most part, it felt like they were just dropping him back. He was under pressure just about every single play, and he just had to make throw after throw. And his accuracy and placement is really, really good, especially paired
Mhm.
with this quick release. I know we talked about it during the preseason. I really think in terms of his talent, the sky is the limit. He doesn't look like the game's going too fast for him, honestly. He really settled into that game in spite of having a very inferior offense in terms of talent compared to the Panthers defense, which I think will be very good. Like Derek Brown looked good. Brian Burns, we already talked about it. We think he's going to be in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. Jeremy Chin looked fantastic.
The secondary, the
Yeah,
corners, Dante Jackson looked really good. Like there was just
he was
no
playing fast.
separation.
Yeah, they're the Panthers defense is fast, it's big, it's strong. It's all that draft capital that's been invested the last 2 years is
Yeah.
coming into fruition for them with their defense. It looks really, really, really good. And when I see that and the fact that he was able to react in spite of them starting George Fant at tackle and
Yeah,
having
less
him
than
play
ideal.
extended snaps against trying to block against Brian Burns. I think if the Jets are able to put a little bit more around him in the coming years, he could really, really be something special. And I don't think I never felt that way about Sam Darnold, even though he was
Mhm.
often put in these type situations. I never
Yeah.
felt like he could single handedly give your team a chance in that game. And I thought in that Week 1 game, Zach Wilson was the only thing that gave the along with a few mental errors from Carolina. Like Sam Darnold missed a few easy touchdown throws that
Mhm.
he just missed wide open people, but I felt like Zach Wilson was single handedly giving the Jets a chance in that game.
Definitely. And I think I was a little shocked too, because I mean, I think you were probably with me on this, but we didn't really think the Jets would be like, this 500 team, but I didn't think they would be that 1-win team they were last year. But on the offense, like, they couldn't run. They weren't getting any yak or really separation. The pass protection was weak. I thought it would have been better this year. They invested a lot in the offense. They brought in Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, Elijah Vera Tucker. They got a lot of guys, a lot of new people, Michael Carter, a new scheme, but it just did not look as good as we would have thought it would.
Yeah.
In general,
I thought by drafting, Elijah Vera Tucker and having Becton the offensive line would be better and they would cope better. And maybe this team, we didn't think 500, but we were thinking they wouldn't come out and look so bereft of talent.
yes.
But I guess that's what happens when Carl Lawson gets hurt and all of that in training camp, because the Jets really did look bereft of talent. They looked quite inferior across the board. Their secondary, their corners did not. I mean, they had a couple corners who stepped up and played well, but it definitely didn't look, like guys that you can consistently put on Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore and Terrace Marshall. They struggled to even run with Christian McCaffrey, their linebackers. In general, it was just, I felt like overall, like the Jets felt like a very inferior team, but at least they got the quarterback right. I think Robert Saleh is the right coach. So we'll just see how this progresses, because the Jets, obviously, there's no expectation for them to be good this year, even next year. They just have to build a team for 2 years from now. And they have a lot of positive players in that direction when you look at Zach Wilson, Mekhi Becton. Vera Tucker had a very rough debut, but I mean, most people I liked him coming out of USC, so I think it'll be a lot better. And Corey Davis, most part, looked pretty good to me. Elijah Moore had a great camp, all of those people, so should be good.
And I think that's the main thing too. Like, they're not expected to be good this year, but you still want to see your foundational pieces show you something, even in a quote unquote wasted year, a year where you're probably getting last in the division, bearing just catastrophic events happening. And I guess really for them, just 5 wins would be a huge. It'd be 4 games better than last year. That'd be a huge improvement. So hopefully they improve this year and they get a little more easy throws for Zach, so he's not always doing everything outside of the pocket and on the run.
Agreed. Which